consumption and how people sit in front of their TV with their laptop open. How many people here are actually online while watching TV? Probably biased sample, but still. Or on your mobile device, or doing something else. Right? We no longer have the attention span of watching 60 minutes of television and being captivated by it. TiVo helped change that by simply being able to skip the commercials. Now we have the commercials, you just log on and do something about it. Forrester did a study in the US that said that pretty much half of teenagers are online while they're actually consuming television. So if you're a marketer, that means you should target the user where they are. Target the medium that actually is relevant to them, which is probably online and not the 30-second spot. If you're the broadcaster, it means that users want to engage around your show online. The amount of comments about American Idol that get posted on a daily basis on Facebook is quite high. The amount of tweets around Mad Men and how great the last show was are kind of high. How do you find that conversation and actually help it improve the engagement with your show? So two more examples is dual consumption. These are two studies from Nielsen on big events. The Super Bowl and the Academy Awards last year. And there's a Nielsen sample that went out and studied how many of the people who were watching the Super Bowl were actually concurrently online. It ended up being under 20% of households were actually online while watching the Super Bowl, but still, Super Bowl, I don't know how many 100 million people watch Super Bowl. It's one of the largest TV shows, TV experiences in the U.S. So 20% of households is still quite a bit of people. So the second question was, while you were online, what site were you on? And as I said, it's a biased presentation towards my company, but a significant percentage of those were actually on Facebook. A significant percentage of them were actually screaming when somebody fumbled, and screaming when a touchdown got scored, and crying when their team lost. But this was effectively, I would argue, screams in abstract. Average Facebook user has 130 friends. Let's say that half of them actually cared about the fact that you were screaming. How do you actually find a way to take the people that are cheering for one team and put them into a certain bucket, and the people that are cheering for another team and put them into a certain bucket, and let them scream with people that have similar affinities? So we did that for the World Cup. We actually did a Facebook integration with major broadcasters around the world. You could be watching the football game online and chatting with your Facebook friends. So by definition, you created a group of people that were cheering for France or Germany or the US and screaming in unison with that. All those comments were also being updated to Facebook so the rest of your friends could see it. But more importantly, you had the sense of community and engagement around a common passion. We do believe this is going to grow. Whether Facebook is where you go and talk about it, or whether it's Twitter, or whether it's Flickr, that's a startup in New York, I don't know. But we do believe that people are going to start talking about media and their consumption of media and their belief or comments on that media across different platforms. Challenge to the media owners, the publishers, the broadcasters is, what do you do? How do you monetize those users? Those are eyeballs that are going away from your billion-dollar revenue stream for 30-second ads. And I, being blunt, haven't necessarily talked to any broadcast company that gets this and actually is moving actively in to capture this. It's kind of hard, right? Innovator's Dilemma, whatever, class 101. It's kind of hard to walk away from a multi-billion-dollar revenue stream into something else. So I was talking about the World Cup, and this is another example of how people engage with the content on Facebook. I ran a query against our logs, and the query pretty much said, give me all status updates with the word goal, G-O-L, 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 worldwide. And then timestamp it. So this is the graphic. It came back, and then I graphed it. And it was fascinating to see the spikes directly tied to specific games. So on a global basis, I could see 500 million people screaming in unison for the U.S. Angola, for the Mexico game. That was actually me screaming. For the Brazil game. Actually, yeah, but I think a lot of people were cheering for Korea in the Brazil game. But think about what this implies, right? This is billions of people all decided to post something about one specific broadcast on television. It is probably the most passionate event in the world for sports. 30 countries, a lot of national pride involved, broadcast worldwide. And then everybody went from their individual broadcasters onto a single medium and screamed at it. Twitter has a similar stat, a similar graph that shows their emotions around it. I think their stat is, I think it was 3,000 tweets per second during one of the, I think the USA and Angola game. So once again, so what? You have all this dual consumption. How do you actually harness it? How do you tap into this passion for Brazil at that point in time? You happen to be the sponsor for a Brazil team. Wouldn't it be ideal to host that conversation, to actually harness that conversation? And by the way, brought to you by Dove, or brought to you by XYZ. So these are some of the innovative things that some broadcasts are trying around dual consumption of the broadcast experience. This is a £1 million drop. It's an Endemol show. Endemol is this production company that brings you wonderful things like Big Brother. And they developed a Facebook game. It's not really like that great a game. It's a fairly casual game. You just interact with it, answer some questions. What they do is they actually call it out during the broadcast. Play £1 million drop right now on Facebook. So during one specific episode in the UK, 500,000. The game was played 500,000 times. So not only were you actually watching the show, you were playing the show at the same time. Add to that virtual currency, so you could actually bet against friends, or actually buy tokens or buy a hint. It becomes a potentially new revenue stream for them. I'm not going to say, I don't think it's going to replace the $1 billion TV ad revenue stream, but it's actually a complementary revenue stream. There's a company called Playfish that was built as a social gaming company, got bought by EA for $400 million. They're now the social platform for EA. They took one of EA's top brands. I mean, they pay hundreds of millions of dollars to FIFA to have this brand, and they brought it onto Facebook. So during the World Cup, you could actually choose your team and support your team and actually make predictions on the score for the game, and then win brownie points, effectively, bragging points with your friends. This friend has done better than you. You're 2 points ahead of this other one. It drove engagement around the World Cup. They're doing the same thing now for the Premier League, the French League. I don't think MLS is live. But simply a different way to engage with that content that the broadcaster has that FIFA wants to promote on a different platform. Oh, and again, virtual currency, you can buy special cleats, or you can buy a coach, or you can buy a bunch of different stuff. It was actually the first game I ever paid money for, because a friend of mine was beating me and I wanted to catch up. And the only way I could catch up was by buying a coach, and the coach gave me more strength points. MTV Music Awards Berlin, they did this live stream integration where people were watching it live on MTV.com and actually chatting with their Facebook friends. They were doing some of the stars were coming on and actually chatting with the audience at the same time. So effectively a way to curate the conversation by making you feel you were there. Making you feel you had access, VIP access to the MTV Music Awards. I don't really know. I don't really think it was the star typing away, but I thought about Flickr. That's actually one of my favorite startups. They do effectively Foursquare for TV. You check into a show. You say, watch now, and that gets broadcast to your friends. So think of a couple years, you can do it tomorrow, but assume that a media company gets creative enough and actually does this. But imagine inviting your friends to watch Mad Men. One friend's in San Francisco, the other one's in Chicago, the other one's in New York. And you go in, you select your friends from your Facebook wall, and you say, I want to invite John and David to watch Mad Men with me. And you all start watching Mad Men at the same time. And you can all chat about it while you're watching it. You can all make jokes about what suit they're wearing or whatever, whoever's sleeping with whoever else. And this all gets captured, and you create a community, you and your friends interacting around this TV show, and starting it at whatever time you want to start it across geographies. Technically, that's all possible today. Licensing right issues, technology, monetization, all kind of impedes it, but you could actually do that. Disney did a really cool thing where they had a video, I don't know what the video was for, but you could actually go through the video and make comments. And they would log your comments with their timestamps in the video. And then your friend comes on and watches the video. When they get to that timestamp, your comment pops up. So you're effectively watching it with your friends at different times. And you actually leave comments for other people, and then they get updates. So there's a conversation that never really happens being kind of saved in the ether. All this stuff gets me excited, because it's actually some of the cool stuff that's possible but not yet happening. And it makes my fun because I have as much fun working with a clicker as I do working with a BBC. Actually, probably more fun. So, this is actually a slide from our marketing pitch, but it applies to media as well. So we view it as a social, that the person at the center, that they connect with things they care about, that they actually share with their friends. And I'll just flash through a couple of examples. When you go to any major newspaper in the UK, in the US now, you'll actually see a recommendation widget. Wall Street Journal, New York Times, CNN. Your friends on Facebook have liked these articles. High click-through rate, high probability that you see your friend's picture, you're going to click on that article and read it. Benefit for the media company, it increases page views, therefore monetization. Social commerce, the ability to discover content based on what your friends have liked. Levi's, you can go through and like jeans, and then browse the jeans based on what a specific friend has liked, or the most liked jeans across. We're actually using this for inventory planning. Because people in this specific geography have liked this jean more, we probably need to stock it better. Open professors would probably like that. Jokes aside, Open was probably one of the best class I took. And I'm in negotiation. And don't waste your points on SQL, but that's my advice. Social creator, absolutely, use all your points up. Amazon, I don't know if anybody's used this, you connect your Amazon account with your Facebook account, you can browse your friends' upcoming birthdays, and because my friend actually states what her favorite books are, it makes recommendations on what books to buy for her birthday. So effectively, the Amazon recommendation engine powered by social identity. Social music. This is a European startup, Spotify. It's really, really cool. You can actually browse your friends' playlists and discover content. So today I'm feeling a bit like Chris. He's hip-hop-ish. Today I'm feeling a bit like John. He's more techno. Today I'm feeling a bit more like Mary. She's more classical. And then you start sharing, actually you start discovering some interesting stuff. This 55-year-old BC guy is really into like hardcore hip-hop, like, you know, aggressive gangster rap. Interesting insight into who your friends really are. And social search. I don't know if you people saw the announcement yesterday. We announced Bing launched a new version of their search engine in which the algorithm is also powered by people. When you search for a restaurant, it actually brings up restaurants that were recommended by your friends. So think about the algorithm, so my former employer, and plug into that a social rank instead of a page rank that's actually triggered by what your friends have done across the web. Probably valuable to you, probably of interest. I'm biased, but I really do think the web has shifted from a bunch of links to a bunch of links interconnected by people. And that's actually going to shift the way in which you discover content, consume content, and hopefully media companies start to monetize content. That's it.